Welcome back to Madam Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. I shall see what's going on a lovely island of Fawnhallow today. Yeah, well, we'll be talking about, I don't know, I guess we'll just be talking about more holiday talk, to be perfectly honest. I mean, what else was you, what am I speaking like? What else were you expecting? One thing I was definitely going to talk about was the fact that, like, my muscles are, while it's still, I suppose, fresh, like, ache. Not anymore, I suppose, as much, but definitely, like, on Sunday and the day we came back was, like, not great, but we'll get into that. Good evening, everyone, and now in Fawnhallow, it's 10:42 p.m. on Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. So if you don't know, me and a few friends, we went to, Udwidir, which is that how you pronounce it? Udwidir. That's not even how you spell it. Mountain. No, I spelled it wrong. I swear it's Udwidir. Earwidva. Sorry. Earwidva, right? Earwidva pronunciation. Earwidva. Otherwise known as Snowdonia. And yeah, we basically climbed up it and came down again over the weekend. It's a pretty tall mountain. It's 1,083 meters tall, so you know it's the tallest. No, not the tallest in the UK. Is Ben Nevis taller? Ben Nevis might be taller. I don't remember, but certainly one of a pretty tall mountain. But it's interesting because it's a tall mountain, but it's actually like completely doable as a novice sort of hiker. It's not going to be like the best experience in the world, I think, because it's going to be difficult, mind you, but it's doable is the point. So we did it with a few friends, and I did it with a few friends, and we went to the top and bottom. It took us about from leaving our camp, which was not actually at the base of a mountain, to going all the way to the top and then coming down to like a pub nearby, which is where we ate our food. It took us 7.5 hours, I think. Which is about, you know, it seems about right. Like most predictions are about 7 hours or something. And we definitely took quite a few breaks and that sort of thing. And as my friend said, it was like he was basically amazed that we actually did it with basically like no preparation whatsoever. And we're not going to do Mayday tour. Can't be bothered. Not yet, at least. I mean, maybe we could do it tomorrow, I suppose, on actual Mayday itself, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly not like the easiest walk in the world. I've done like reasonably long hikes before, like hiking for an entire day sort of thing, but most of the times I've been doing it on flat ground, which is just kind of more, it's tiring, exhausting after a while, but it's not like, I don't think, a huge strain to walk on like flat ground for 8 hours. Certainly, I'm not going to say like it's an easy feat, like, oh, you know, I just do that like every Friday or something. It's still difficult, mind you. It's still like an exercise. It's still like a workout, but it's not like completely like soul draining, I suppose. But climbing upwards, I suppose, for 3.5 hours, and then coming down again for another 3. Well, I think up was like 4 hours and then down was like 3.5 or something. I can't quite recall. It was utterly exhausting, and unsurprisingly, when it came around to Sunday, well, actually, on Saturday itself, my legs were super dead. Like, I was not doing great. I would say on the way up, I was doing meh. I was doing fine. Like, probably as expected. I'm not, like, particularly in shape or anything, but I was doing well enough. But going down, I was like, literally just dying. Like, I felt fine for, like, the first hour going down. And then the last two hours, I, like, hit a wall or something. I just, like, felt like I was going to die. But yeah, I mean, it was super tiring. Like, the first part we had was actually like a reasonably steep, like, zigzag walk up the hill in the first place, which we had to like take a few sort of breaks here and there, because I mean, it is just tiring, I suppose, to continuously walk upwards on a steep incline for a while, unless you're particularly physically fit or something, which I can't say I was. I am particularly, mind you. I'm not going to comment on necessarily my friends' fitness levels, but they're certainly all three of them, I would say, are probably fitter than I am. Now, can I sprint faster than them? Probably, but you know, I'm very much a sprinter. I'm not and I'm not like a long distance endurance runner or anything like that, nor am I any sort of runner, to be perfectly honest. I'm using like outdated knowledge from when I did like a tiny bit of athletics back in school, but anyway, not the point. So it started off with like with like a walk from where we camped to basically the start of the trail, which was super easy because it was just along flat ground essentially. And then it started with like I had like a really difficult, like not really difficult, but surprisingly one of the most tiring sections was right at the beginning of the zigzag upwards. And then it was like on this relatively sort of kind of up, kind of downish part, which wasn't too bad. It was relatively flat. That's kind of like before we got to the actual ascent part upwards. We had lunch. This is why I need to bring up the photos of the walk to see if I can remember it exactly. I didn't take like a huge, like crazy amount of photos or anything like that, mainly because a lot of it was sort of like concentrating on walking, but it was tiring, don't get me wrong. You might be like, what path did you walk across? We walked upwards the ranger path, hunter path? I think it was called a ranger path. That sounds right. Sorry about that little bit of a pause. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, we're talking about the walk up, and then you go up a zigzag and you go straight for a little while, and then we stop for lunch, and then it's basically just a load of going upwards internally for like the next 2 hours, which is a lot of upwards walking, certainly, and probably why like my legs started being super tired. But yeah, I felt like I wasn't doing terribly on the way up. Like definitely I was doing worse than I think the average hiker. I'm not going to give myself that much credit, but I did better than I expected. By the fact I was like, okay, I'm walking. I basically sort of entered, in my mind, as I called it, I entered like zombie mode, where it's basically like, okay, I'm not going to take like these big steps upwards. I'm going to do like these little continuous steps over and over and over again upwards. Because I knew that if I like stopped to like take a break, it would just be like, oh, I'd never be able to get up again or something. So I just kept going until I was just like, okay, let's actually take a break now or something. So in my mind, it was zombie mode, and it's like I remember it being described when I used to do cross country back in primary school, which I was terrible at, mind you. But it was like this concept of like long distance runners, they hit a wall, but once you push through that wall, eventually your brain sort of just like shuts out the pain, and you're just fine for the rest of it or something. Which I understand is in scientific perspective, it's when you use up all the glucose, I suppose, in your bloodstream, and you hit that wall, and your body needs to start converting the glycogen you have stored into glucose to actually produce energy for you to actually continuously move for. That's why I understand what this wall is. But yeah, upon hitting that wall, I suppose, like, that's kind of like what zombie walk was doing. It's sort of like, instead of actually just like bypassing a wall and like breaking through, I just sort of like very, very slowly walked around the wall, if anything. And it was still incredibly exhausting, don't get me wrong. It was super, super tiring. But at the top, I was like, okay, I'm pretty tired, but I'm about as tired as I expect on a walk or something. And then we had like our nice pictures, and usually at the top there is a cafe which is open, or not usually, at least the last time I went when I was much younger, there's a cafe which is open and you take pictures, etc, 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 and you can have food and drink, and there's a bathroom, but there wasn't in this case. So we were just like hung around and we're like, oh, it's not open, okay, time for us to go back down. And we went back down the Redo path, I believe, Redo path. And then for the first hour of it, I said I was fine. I was like talking to a friend, being like, going down feels like it's so much easier, because I don't have to, like, it's a thing where cardiovascularly it's so much easier, right? Because it's not as much effort, I suppose, lifting up my legs with each step that you do before climbing upwards. You just had to sort of go downwards. But it's at that point I had like a flashback to a friend who did like a lot of hiking back in secondary school. You might be like, are you in contact with him? Nope, I haven't spoken to him for, I think, since like the start of university or something, to be perfectly honest. Like I saw him the first year. I don't know how he's doing. He's probably fine as far as I know. But he did like a lot of hiking, and I remember because we were in the same science class, and I was talking to him about it or something, and he was like, "Oh no, I absolutely much prefer hiking upwards than hiking downwards." And I was like, "Why?" That seems insane. There's so much more energy to like hike upwards. And he said, "Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, with hiking downwards, there's nothing you can do to really stop the fact that your like foot keeps sliding into the front of your shoe, and that wears away much faster than your energy does for walking upwards, because it's something like the concept of when you're walking upwards, if you lifting up your legs is cardiovascularly tiring, you get a short breath and that sort of thing, and it's using up a lot of energy. But if you how do you recover from it? You just take a break, and then like you rest for a bit. I mean, you can just keep on going after that. But the thing is, if going down, there's nothing you can really do to stop your toes from like getting squashed, like that force, I suppose, on the front of your feet. as you step downwards or something, which you can't really rest and recover for. It's not like that recovers in like in a few minutes. You get your breath back and it's fine. That sort of like stays with you for the rest of the hike. And never have I found that to be more true. I don't even know if that's true or not, by the way. I think I'm paraphrasing him, but I might be doing it completely wrong. But never I found that more true. As for the first hour or so, it was completely fine. Like walking down, and I was feeling great, if anything. And I was like, this is great, because like before going upwards I was just getting like short of breath, I was just getting really tired, but going down it's just like I'm not short of breath at all. And if anything, the only thing which is starting to happen is my feet are starting to hurt, I suppose, going downwards. But then like as we kept going, my feet kept hurting more and more. And I think part of the reason is my feet are like kind of weirdly shaped. They're like abnormally wide for how long they are. Because my shoe size is around like 6.5 to 7ish or something, which is not like crazy. I suppose I'm not saying that. I think it's probably on like the average side. But the thing is, my foot width is huge. My width is like H, is like extra wide, I suppose. Like even extra wide shoes sometimes don't even fit me. I have no idea why. My feet are like oblongs or something. So it makes it very difficult to buy shoes. But the trainers I bought were like extra wide trainers. And by the way, as I learned, they're not the best trainers for like long distance walking. They're fine, like for like sneakers, but not. I need to get actual good trainers. Or sneakers, I suppose, athletic sneakers, I suppose at some point, because these ones are not going to cut it if I ever do anything like that again. I think I just had a shooting star, so I guess Celeste must be bound. So yeah, and that means that my like feet is a bit wider than you might expect, I suppose, a shoe. So I think they don't fit into the shoe that well necessarily. It's not like a perfect fit or anything. And by like after the first hour, I was like, my feet are like starting to like, actually to be fair, the first hour I felt like I was hitting like a blood sugar deficit or something. Now, I'm not diabetic, and apparently people with diabetes can actually tell when their blood sugar is dropping, but as far as I'm aware, I'm not diabetic. Like all tests have returned negative or no suspicions of diabetes, but I can very much tell, I feel like, when my blood sugar sort of like drops. Like I can feel it when I'm just like I'm like pretty low. Like I feel it as like a sort of tingly sensation in like my gums, and starts with my hands as well. And then I'm just like, oh, I should probably like eat something or get like a boost or something. So as I was walking, in the first break, I was like, my blood sugar is absolutely dropping. I need to like eat something now. And we still had like snacks and stuff left over. And in retrospect, I forgot we had sandwiches. I definitely should have eaten a sandwich, but I was like, oh, this will be fine. I'll just have like a cereal bar or something, and it'll be enough to get me through. But then for like the next hour, I found my blood level, sugar level was like dropping more and more or more something like that, and it got to a point where my feet were just like in a ridiculous amount of pain. Like every single step I took hurt, because I think of my toes being forced into my shoes or that sort of thing, and obviously just walking for a long time hurts the bottom of your soles of your feet. But it wasn't really my soles of my feet, it was very much like the top of my feet. Like all my toenails hurt is what I recalled. And like this, I don't know who, the border of your feet, that sort of area just like was in incredible pain, including the sides. And I remember like with every step I took, my legs were like shaking essentially. And I was like, okay, this might be an energy thing as well, but I also think it's just like the pain my feet is in with each step. So I had some more food and another stop, and I was just like, I'm like dying here. this is terrible. What's going on? And some of my other friends, and I'm not gonna say they were like doing perfectly, like they weren't in pain or anything like that, or like weren't tired or anything, but they seemed to be doing pretty well, to be perfectly honest. I was just like absolutely dying, and it was really weird because it was a thing where it was straight up my muscles were like not atrophying, but like absolutely exhausted. But I wasn't like short of breath or anything. Like cardiovascularly, I was doing completely fine. It was just like muscle fatigue or anything. So it was really weird. But it was just like, yeah, I can hold a conversation. I'm not short of breath or anything, but I'm just so like I couldn't keep walking, I suppose. Well, no, I mean I could keep walking. I'm not going to be dramatic. I'm not going to try and belittle an actual situation if I couldn't keep walking. But I was just like so incredibly tired. And one thing, which I don't know, I'm just bringing up all my body issues, I suppose sometimes. But I have hypermobility, which basically means my joints like hyperextend, which means that my joints go past their normal range of motion. Like all my fingers can go like past like 90 degrees backwards, things like that. My elbows hyperextend, my knees hyperextend a little bit, not too much. There's like a test you can do for hypermobility, and yes, I do have hypermobility. I scored like a 9 or something on that test. I can't remember, or maybe not. I don't remember. But anyway, But my knees can hyperextend a little bit, but not like a huge amount, to be honest. My elbows do, like, certainly a lot more. If you look at them, like, they certainly go past the 180-degree line if I straighten them out. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say about this. Oh yeah, like and then we had like a booking at a pub at like 7, so it was just like, okay, you know, we got to try and make it there for then. And then the two of our friends who were doing like pretty well just went like zooming off basically when we had like 40 minutes to go to make it for that booking. And then me and my other friend, who, you know, I don't know necessarily how tired he was necessarily feeling, but he stayed with me as I was like slowly plodding along. And then like a macabre thought sort of like came to mind, where I was just like, what would happen? Because like there were quite a few steps where I was like, basically I just couldn't like unlock my legs, so I like take a step and my knees were like fully locked, and it like felt really, you know that feeling when you have like locked knees and it almost makes you like sort of crumple to the ground if you do something like that. I mean, that's something like we used to do back in gymnastics class. We like jump and then like lock our knees, and when you land, and it like sends a shock up you, and you sort of just like collapse to the ground. I don't know why we used to do that. It was a terrible idea as a child. And I was like, I just had like, you know, the morbid thought being like, okay, what if my knees like hyperextend and I like break my knee or something? Like I break my leg while walking down this mountain. What is my friend gonna do? And then he was just. And I remember having that discussion to him when we were like walking up to the pub, and he was like, oh, I wasn't actually worried about that. I was worried that you were going to like faint or something. And he was like, I don't know what I would do at that point. And I was like, you know, that's fair. And it makes sense, because like every single conversation I had with my friends at that point was like, my blood sugar is like dropping like pretty low. I need to like eat something now. Which, you know, I laugh about. This certainly could have been like a worse situation, and if I were to do it again, I would, you know, certainly change some things. I would go out, spend a lot of money in getting some like good walking shoes, or like really good sneakers or trainers, or that sort of thing. Make sure I had like a carb loaded meal, I suppose, in the morning to make sure my blood sugar wouldn't drop and that sort of thing. And then I have like emergency sweet things on hand to eat. Like, I think the only emergency sweet things we had were marshmallows, which I don't particularly like. But it's a thing. It's like, I'm gonna, even if I don't have diabetes, you know, I can certainly take a page out of a book, right, where they have like orange juice cartons, right, to get like that sort of sugar in your veins now, sort of thing. Which maybe I should have done, like a sort of fruit juice thing. But I just remember my legs were shaking like crazy. And then, like, when I got to the pub, I just sat down and I was like, oh, that's it. Like, I don't think I can move from the seat. Obviously, I did move from the seat because I had to go to the bathroom, and I went up to, I can't remember, help, like, get drinks and stuff. And I ate so much food for that dinner. I had, like, 2 starters and a main meal. I was so hungry. I mean, I had, like, some chips that, like, a friend ordered as well. I was ravenous. And then we had to walk back to our camp for like 15 minutes, which actually on the walk back was not too bad. It was like tiring, my muscles were exhausted, but it felt fine. I think mostly. So basically, I suppose the TLDR of it was like, listen to your body, I suppose. I'm very much someone who I guess ignores my own hunger every once in a while, and it turns out in this case, probably should have ate more as I was travelling to keep the energy levels high. But yeah, for the next 2 days after, like Sunday actually, I woke up and I was like, surprisingly my muscles hurt, but they don't hurt like a huge amount, as much as I expected. But it just felt like I had just done like a pretty intense workout, which I had honestly. But it's like I had literally like woke up in the morning, I was like, oh, I did an intense workout. I could still like walk around and do that sort of things if I wanted. I don't think I could do like another hike or anything like that, or like a big exercise, but I was fine like walking about from place to place. Oh man, there was another story I was supposed to have for the camping, which I suppose I'll save for tomorrow or whenever the next one is. But my muscles ached, and they still ached for like it was actually quite a fortunate thing that, you know, well, not a fortunate thing. I don't know how to drive, but two of my friends did, and they were ones who drove us back, which is I'm very thankful for, because my friend also very kindly was like, okay, I'm gonna drop you back at your home instead of making you take the train and walking like 20 minutes back to your house, which I was just like, thank you very much, that's very kind of you. So I woke up the next day on Monday, and it was like, okay, my muscles are pretty tired, but luckily I don't really have to do anything. I basically just sort of sat in my chair the entire day, and that was about it. And you know, today being Tuesday, I woke up, my muscles are sore, but they're fine. Like walking around is fine, like bending my legs, bending my joints, etc., etc. Nothing is too bad, which is good. But you know, certainly not a great situation to have, I suppose, to have your muscles incredibly to be very tired, but that's kind of like the caveat of doing a lot of exercise, isn't it? Doing an 8-hour sort of hike up and down a mountain. It's kind of you kind of like what you expect, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to round this episode up here, I think. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Daylighting. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope you see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.